Well, hi folks again, and welcome to Templates for Change Sensory Arts and Sciences presentation on exploring the world's special places. And this is part 2 to do with the human story. And this part of the human story, we're still working at Hampton Court, and we're going to look at a fascinating subject, which is what are our visionary pictures? Well, hi again, and it's me, John, and I'm continuing to take you through the presentations on Hampton Court. And we've now come to the final part of this series, which is the culmination of it, bringing all aspects together with our exploration of Hampton Court as an example of any exploration that you might wish to do at any place in the part of the world that you live, and to see how we can bring together our work towards the visionary pictures that everything we've done so far can lead us to exploring. Now, I'd just very briefly like to say also that our presentations are done with those folk in mind who may not be able to see quite so well or hear quite so well, so you can either watch or listen to these presentations. But I'd also like to say, when we're now getting to the visionary pictures, we're moving away from those ordinary senses. And so people would not be so disadvantaged at all in this arena. They may be actually better at it than us. Because what we're talking about is our inner eye, our visionary pictures, our instincts, our imagination, our intuition. And what that tells us in summation of the results of all the work that we've done. And this presentation, therefore, is completing our fascinating journey of discovery. Now, this presentation has been done slightly differently because it's done in widescreen, you might say. And when I was there was some reenactment going on in various parts of Hampton Court of different aspects of life. An excellent thing to see and to do. Obviously lots of visitors milling around, but wonderful for our kind of work because it can trigger things off. It can lead us into things. It can act as a catalyst to help us see further in our own inner eye. So let's start off by saying, well, what were people's lives like? What pictures did we get of their lives and of the people? People moving through the rooms, meeting, talking, laughing in all kinds of ways. What kind of images or ideas do we get of what might that have been like as this meeting going on here? And what was life like for the servants? Remember, we were saying that it's often much easier to connect to the servants first. So here we are in the kitchens, and here are the cooks working away. Starting with those servants first, what kind of life did they have and what did they do? And the kitchen is a great place to start. And again, as I was there were folks in the kitchens working. And you can get a sense of what it was like. Of course, in those times it would have been much busier, probably, much more chaotic in one sense, but obviously everybody knowing what they had to do to serve the guests in the main hall. And what of music, singing and dancing? There was often music here, wasn't there? It had to be played. They didn't have CDs and recording equipment and things of that kind. They didn't have iPods, so everybody had to make their own music on the spot with instruments. And they didn't have television to watch, so they had their own dances and their own entertainment. So what ways did they go on? How did they entertain themselves or their masters? What might be sense? And here's another lovely picture of some people playing instruments pretty much from that time. What kind of music was it? What do you feel? What do you think about it? And what sense do you have of children? Because children would have played a very important part in places such as Hampton Court. There'd have been lots of children all over the place. And here is actually a picture of Henry VIII with his children, obviously very important to him. And many children, as I said, would have been present. How do we sense them? Where do we think they were? Were they running around? What were they doing? What are the children of today doing as we're watching them? Does that give us an indication what children of the past might have been up to as well? So there's a whole possibility of the pictures that you might have and the sounds and the feelings to do with children. And then we're moving from the children, you might say, to the pages and the maids, the teenagers and the young men and young women. They worked widely in homes and palaces, didn't have the education systems that we had today. Often their education was going out to work and learning a skill, learning a trade. And Hampton Court, there would have been many, many youths and girls widely working in all sorts of different areas. And there is actually here in Hampton Court, I found, a pages room next door to the main hall. It's a magical little place, it's just tucked away. And you can almost imagine them sitting there, can't you, laughing, chatting, talking. So what were they up to here? What senses do you get of the youths, the maids and the girls? Now much, of course, happened in passageways and alleyways, and there are many of those hidden away in Hampton Court, aren't there? And often there aren't that many people in them. They don't find them particularly interesting. They're not the high spots, you might say. But for us, it could be very different. Much coming and going means easier perhaps to connect to, easier perhaps to sense the people themselves. So not just comings and goings, but meetings, assignations, laughing, children, busy staff, people carrying trays, people rushing around with food. What kind of pictures do we get from these magical passageways, which were the great place of movement around Hampton Court, continually probably thronged with people most of the time? And then we can move to the important rooms and halls, having got ourselves primed to be connected to this place and have a sense of the visionary pictures we're getting. We might now turn our attention to the more important people. And here, for example, is the top table where, well, who knows, Henry VIII might have sat with Anne Boleyn at some point in the past. Not these tables, not these chairs, no doubt, but somewhere near this particular place. And of course we know, don't you, that the reason someone's called the chairman or chairperson is at that time they were quite often the only people that had chairs. Everybody else sat on benches. They didn't have chairs like we have today. So the person that had the chair was obviously the chairman, the chairperson. They were very important. So maybe we can also get a sense of the important people too. Perhaps through the eyes of the servants as well, standing there, looking after them, serving them, etc. What visions do we get of that? And of course, what images keep returning? That's a very, very important thing to consider, because we can get all sorts of ideas, but if they're just fleeting, passing, they may not be so strongly of that time. But if they keep on coming back, we keep up the same visions, the same images, the same ideas coming back, well, these may be the best and strongest ones from the past. So as you go around the place, do get a sense of what feelings keep returning. Here we are, we're back in the kitchen, we're back with the gentleman turning the spits, and this may be a very good place to start and get a sense of what life was like. And remember, keep a broad scan and an open stance, the same with these visionary pictures and ideas. as with other aspects that we've been talking about in all these presentations. Now, for example, here is a picture from Hampton Court on the wall, but it gives us a wonderful perspective on their lives, not just at sea, but all the people in the foreground, in the towers, the soldiers, the children, the people walking around, all sorts of different aspects of life. Do we unexpectedly get a sense of the people directly and the new ideas about their lives and a sudden different perspective about this palace? It could be this picture, it could be other things. So here's another opportunity, you might say, to open up a broad scan and a very open stance, to give ourselves the best opportunity of sensing everything we can while we're there. Well, I'm afraid to say we've come to the end of this series now at Hampton Court, looking at our more advanced sensing and the kind of pictures and views we might get while we're there. I've so much enjoyed doing this. I always enjoy going to Hampton Court, and this is exactly what I do while I'm there, and indeed at most other places I go to as well. I do hope you found this helpful and useful, and that you'll try it out yourself. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And so really I have to say cheerio now until the next series of presentations. And again, if you want to find out more about TFC, do look at templatesforchange.org, where you'll find out more. Well, all the very best, folks, and hopefully speak to you again soon. Bye now.